Hey everybody, Griff Hamlin here from Blues Guitar Unleashed. Welcome and thanks for joining me today. Today's video, some people are going to love, some people are going to hate. We're going to talk about the song Mustang Sally. Now, I will be the first to admit, if you have played in, bar bands, top 40 bands, wedding bands, casual bands, whatever, you grow to loathe this song for a variety of reasons. You tend to have to play it a lot. It comes up all the time. However, as is typical with songs I generally don't like, when I really dig into them, I find there's some really, really cool stuff. And there is something to appreciate very much, particularly in the original Wilson Pickett recording. And we're actually going to kind of take that first, because there's actually 3 guitar parts going on simultaneously. It's a really neat way that the things are kind of put together. And then, a lot of people are more familiar or are also familiar with the version done later by sort of a fictitious band from a movie called The Commitments. And that's a very popular version also. What's interesting is that it's done with a single guitar. And when you see kind of what the 2 and 3 guitars did in the original, what the 1 guitar does in the Commitments version makes a lot more sense. Okay, so basically what we're dealing with is a blues in C. So there's kind of a fundamental groove that goes on, right? C, F, and G are basic chords, and you can see that I'm just playing a power chord, 8th and 10th fret on the 6th and the 5th string. And then moving up a string, I've got an F power chord and a G power chord up 2 frets from there. Standard, 1, 4, 5. It's not a 12-bar blues, because everything tends to go twice as long and the turnaround's a little bit different. So it's kind of like they took a 12-bar blues and instead of making it 24, it's pretty close, but it's got a little bit of a stop in it. So it's very similar to a 12-bar blues that's just been doubled. Okay, so if you take I'll say the main groove, it kind of goes like this, and you're probably familiar, with that blues in E idea, right? Where I'm doing a little bit of palm mute down here with my picking hand. That's a big key to this groove, is keeping that palm lightly on the strings back by the bridge to get that sound. So I'm going to be playing here, go up 1 more. So I've got my 3rd finger on the 10th fret, pinky on the 12th, pinky on the 13th, starting with the 8th fret here in the C. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Now I'm going to slide from a half step on the and of 4 back up. And the second time I'm going to do 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So it's kind of the same notes, but slightly different. 8th fret, I'm calling out the 5th string note. 10th fret, 12th fret, 13th fret, back to 12th. Again, the half step slide, and then we repeat. So it's a 2-bar phrase. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3. And you can kind of hear that groove. So that's basically, I'll say guitar 1. It does that for, there's 8 or 10 bars coming in, and then it moves up, and it goes through 8 bars of this during the vocal, instead of the traditional 4 bars. Moves up to the F, right? The 4 chord. Same thing. All I've done is just move everything by a string. Come back to the C for 4 bars. Now, here's where we go to the 5 chord. I'll be perfectly honest, I cannot hear this guitar anymore in the original recording. The horn section comes in, there's singing, there's another guitar part that's a little bit louder. I can't tell if this guitar continues. I just can't hear it quite that well. If it were to continue, that's kind of what it would do, right? It would be 2 bars, and then hit on the F and stop. So, like I say, I don't know 100%. I can't be certain. I listened. It just can't be 100% certain. So, I'm gonna throw that out there as a definite probability. It's probably the case that that guitar keeps going. When I play along in that fashion, it sounds good. So I'm gonna justify it and say that's probably there. It would seem odd for that sort of main groove guitar to come out, but I can no longer, once the other guitar comes in, the horns come in, there's a loud vocal right there. Once all that stuff comes in at once, I just can't pick it out through all that's going on. So keep that in mind. That's kind of an important thing to keep in mind. So think of all of that. Think of that groove as guitar 1, right? Now, guitar 2. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. Really simple idea, okay? That's what makes this so cool, because that very, very simple idea you really hear in the whole mix of things that goes on. So I'm playing octaves. I'm playing a C at the 3rd fret of the 5th string and the 5th fret of the 3rd string. Now I'm striking a lot of strings, but I'm laying my middle finger across and my first finger across the strings that I don't want to hear. So I only get the strings that I want to sound. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2. And you kind of want to pulse. You don't want to, you want to make them short. So 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. Now, what's going to seem really strange is that line doesn't change when the main groove guitar goes to the 4 chord. Believe it or not, as this guitar goes up to here, this guitar still goes. And you might wonder, well, how on earth can that be? Why doesn't he go up to F? Okay, or she, whoever played it. Why not go up to the F to follow the other guitar? Well, in an F, this note, this C, which is what I'm playing here, is in the chord. So it's a common tone between the C and the F chord. So it's cool to just hang here. Okay? Now, if I were to sort of play this into my looper, I could, for example, play like 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. And then go up to the F. Okay, so there's the groove. There's that second guitar part over it. Notice that it still works just fine over the F. And now when it comes back to the C, of course it makes perfect sense. Okay, so when you hear the 2 parts together like that, it does work. It's kind of odd. And definitely, you know, when it goes to the 4 chord and it goes up to the F, that's not the main thing. Because at that point, when it goes to the F, a 3rd guitar jumps in. So this 3rd guitar, 2, 3, 4. So we're going back and forth between an F and an E flat. You could probably play it here. It sounds like it's being played here to me. So it's F, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. And it just ends because at that point, we go back. So remember, it's only going to be 4 bars of that. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1. Right? So if I turn on my loop again, now here's where it comes to the F. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4. So this is the third. Okay, and then it's back to the C. So I've got 3 things going on together over that F7 chord. 3 things at one time, all creating the sound. Okay, and every part is very simple, it's very subtle, but all together it sounds really, really cool. So when it does come to the 5 chord, now like I said, I'm not 100% sure, but that seems perfectly logical from that first part. This can't go on anymore because a C is not a note in a G chord. So that no longer makes sense. I no longer hear that anymore. This idea of playing the root and the flat 7, I definitely hear, except it's G. So G here at the 5th fret of the 4th string. 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. So because of the fact that this is short, it's only 2 bars, we just get G, F, F, G, and then we do a couple of hammer-ons. And you'll hear that guitar part, it really does, it kind of sticks out during this time. This is the guitar parts that you actually hear. 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1. And then that's a break, there's a vocal right there, etc., etc., etc. So you've got all these pieces going together. It's kind of cool, right? So we could actually put the whole thing into the looper. Let's put the main groove in first. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Back to the 1, 3, 4. All right, so as that goes, we can kind of play some of those other parts. And basically what I'm doing is kind of going back and forth between, I'll say, guitar 2 and guitar 3. So once you have, once you have that main groove, then you can kind of play all those other sections. It's up to you, how crazy you want to get with that. It's kind of fun to do all that, but what if you're the only guitar player in the band? Okay, so like I alluded to, there's this other version, right? The Commitments version of this tune, where there's really only one guitar player in the band. And he plays with a little overdrive. So we're gonna give it a little bit of oomph. Turn that down just a little bit. Okay, so what's gonna happen on this is instead of trying to play all of the parts, which obviously you can't do, you'll do the okay, so what's going on here? There's that C power chord, same thing. I'm getting the 8, all right, because I'm at the 8th fret. I'm getting the flatted 7th of the chord, that 8th fret on the 4th string. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1. That push, that hitting the and before the downbeat is usually the most confusing part. So of course the first bar, it doesn't happen that way. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. And you'll hear every once in a while those top strings in between, at the beginning of the second bar on the and of 1. So he'll do something like this once in a while. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now when it comes to the F, 2, everything just goes up a string, as you probably expected. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. And you might even hear that once in a while. You can still get that. It creates an F9 kind of vibe, but it still works. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. Now when it comes to the 5, it's again really, really hard to tell. Organ comes in, background singers, horns, all this other stuff. Personally, I would probably just 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and just hit the F. And in fact, when I have played this song on, hundreds of occasions, that's pretty much what I've played right there. And it works. So when I play this in a band and I'm the only guitar player, it's going to be that kind of thing. Much more Commitments version, because I can't possibly play all of those parts. So I know this is a little bit longer lesson. It's a little bit more. There's a little bit more to chew on with this. It's not as simple as it seems right off the bat, and that's what makes it cool. And like I said, if you're in a band, if you've played, weddings or parties or bar gigs or whatever, and you've gotten burnt out, there's even joke memes going around the internet about should you play Mustang Sally, and there's plenty of debate over whether or not you should play it or whether or not you want to play it. But if you really want to dig into it and check it out, it's got some cool stuff. So hope you enjoyed the video. As always, I'm Griff Hamlin from Blues Guitar Unleashed. Please feel free to share this with guitar playing friends if you think they would dig it, and I'll talk to you soon. Take it easy.